for me, I love Magic. Like Magic is incredible. I mean, it's no surprise, perhaps, but I love Magic, and it's an incredible game, and it's my favorite game in the world. Period. But the best part by far is the gathering. It's the people. It is 100% the people, and hey everybody, my name is Gavin Verhey. I'm a principal game designer on Magic the Gathering, which means I design what these cardboard rectangles actually do. I've been there for about 13 years now. My first set that I worked on was Return to Ravnica, if that's like an easier way to frame it. And I love it. It's awesome. I get to make Magic cards and talk to people about Magic, and I'm pretty happy doing it.
Thank you very much, Gavin, for joining me for this little conversation about your journey in Magic. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. As someone who is, I want to say, key in what Magic the Gathering is in this day and age, and you are kind of in the community. You are Mr. Magic the Gathering right now, so it's a definite pleasure to have you on. I want to kind of really get straight into it and get into the heart of you and Magic. And one of the first questions I always ask is, what was your first interaction with Magic? Like, how did you discover that Magic the Gathering was a thing that existed? Like, where did it show up for you in your life?
Yeah, so it had great foreshadowing. So I started playing Magic when I was a kid, but before that, I had seen it. I was at a summer camp. Some older kids were playing Magic, and I walked into the store at one point. Some people were playing Magic, so I knew it tangentially existed. I'd read a bit about Magic, but it all happened for me. So there used to be Wizards of the Coast game stores. These were game stores that Wizards actually ran, and there were a handful of them around the U.S. and I think the world as well. And I was there for a different card game. I was about 10 years old. And after the event, the storekeep was like, my mom was there because once again I was 10. She looked at my mom and she was like, "Hey, your kid really is like this stuff. You might really like Magic." She pointed it out to me, and my mom asked me, "Oh, Magic, think you'd enjoy that, Gavin? Do you want to give it a try?" And I didn't know at that point, but that was maybe the most important decision I would make in my life, right? And I said yes, and of course the rest is history. But really, shout out to that person working at Wizards of the Coast on that day, and it just goes to show how a tiny little push of a thing you love can send you in a totally wild direction. I'm 34 now, for reference, so I started playing Magic 24 years ago,
wow.
Which is kind of bananas.
What set was it at the time?
Invasion and Plane Shift was right around when I started. So I think Plane Shift had literally just come out. Maybe the pre-release had just happened, and my first pre-release was Apocalypse.
Wow. It's a good set as well. I like that set. So that's when you kind of first got into it and tried it. What was when if I mean, obviously I imagine you do remember. What was your first thoughts when you started playing it? What drew you in?
Yeah, so we bought the 6th edition starter set, and I think that was it. Maybe there were a couple packs involved too. I think there were 2 Invasion booster packs. And me and my brother, we did everything together, right? We played games and all this stuff. So I came home, and it was my job to put in the instructional CD-ROM and learn how to play. And then I was there for a while, picking it up and trying to understand how it all happened. And then once I was ready, I took it over to my brother, and we sat down. There was going to be a basketball game on or something, and he was kind of watching that, but we sat down, we started playing. And very quickly, the attention began to shift from the basketball game more and more to the game. And it was clear we were entranced with this Magic thing. And, I started playing in January 2001. And by the time summer hit, that's all we wanted to do, right? Every video game, put down the controller, we're good. We're playing Magic against each other. And me and my brother would just sit at home for hours playing with each other. And we were each other's whole world, right? We would, we were all the cards that existed as far as we knew. So we would trade with each other and set up deals with each other and play games. We would argue about things with each other, and of course, there's no way to resolve it. So I think my parents would call into the Wizards of the Coast helpline. Back then, they actually had a helpline you would call into to answer rules questions.
Oh wow!
And common rules things. So we did some of that, and we played. And then eventually, I learned that in my tiny little town that I grew up in, there was a card shop not too far away, and we started going there. And then I learned about the regional pre-releases, and things just quickly began to spiral. And before I knew it, I was going to pre-releases and playing and meeting other people. And I was 11 years old, but I was loving it.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't realize there was a hotline.
Yeah, there was there used to be like a place you would call into, and it was like a phone tree with like common Magic rules questions, like, oh, you might be asking about this common interaction, whatever. But then eventually you could also get to a real person if you needed to educate on debate. Now, that's not true. Back then, in the early primordial days of the internet, that's what we used. And then, of course, I was a kid of the internet, so I started looking online, and I started getting hooked in with a bunch of online forums, and that's really where I cut my teeth, right? Because when I went to a game store, I was 11 years old, and everyone knew that. But online, okay, maybe less. It was less mysterious than it was at the time. I probably typed like an 11-year-old, but I could be a part of the community and talk with people and learn and engage, and that was really critical for me. So I spent a lot of my 11 through 15, 16 years old age on the computer, on forums, on AIM, talking with Magic players I met online and play testing and all that kind of stuff, because that's the way I had to connect with people. I couldn't go many places, but I could do it all from home.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, how did you go from being an 11-year-old kid playing Magic to being a principal game designer for Wizards? Like how? I mean, there's a slight jump there.
Yeah, a slight jump. Well, first of all, I got older. But so I started playing when I was 10, right? And when I was 11, I had this very pivotal moment. So I was at one of the regional pre-releases for Odyssey. Okay. So a year basically later. And by that point, I decided Magic was the best, and I wanted to go make Magic cards. That was my dream job. That's what I was going to do. And I lived in Seattle, so at the local pre-release, Randy Bueller was there, who was the VP of Magic R&D. And I went up to him at 11 years old, and I was like, "Hey, I'm ready. Like, hire me. What do I need to do?" Right? And he looks at me really seriously. Takes me really serious. Which for a kid, you always feel good when someone does that. And he's like, "Okay, kid, you're going to need two things. The first thing you're going to need is a college degree." And my heart just sinks, right? Because I'm 11 years old. It's going to take forever to get one of those. Maybe there's something that can just speed it up. Who knows? But the second thing he says is you should be really good at Magic. You'd like to hire people who know the game really well. And I was like, I don't know about the whole college degree thing, but like a pro Magic player, like I could do that. Anyone could do that. So basically, from that moment forward, I set myself to those two things. And I started college when I was 15 and went pro when I was 16. And then I actually used my pro Magic play to help pay for college. And then I played professionally around the world and wrote articles, got picked up by Star City Games, and became on Twitter and became part of the community. And then when I graduated, when I was 20 years old, within a year, Wizards reached out to me to hire me. And then I started as an intern, and I worked my way all the way up to where I am now.
Wow.
There was a thing I did toward the end of my life cycle as I'll call it a player, although I still play tons and tons and tons of Magic, but before I came to Wizards, basically, where I spearheaded the creation of this format called Overextended. So at the time, there was a format called Standard. We all know it's still there. And a format you probably don't know, or many of you maybe don't know, called Extended. And Extended was kind of like Modern, but every 3 years it would rotate 3 blocks. So it was like a slowly rotating Modern format. And it wasn't very popular. Like, it was fun to play. I loved Extended, actually. But basically, unless it was the tournament season, no one played Extended. So I had this idea of what if we created a new format that didn't rotate, right? Something that you picked a set, and from that point onward, all sets were legal, which is a crazy idea, right? It'll never work. Well, I was so excited about this that I built up the format. I called it Overextended. I set a starting point of invasion block for a few reasons, maybe but very legitimate ones, and also nostalgia. And that's when I started. And I started running events on Magic Online, started talking about it in the community, I wrote a bunch of articles on my platform. And at the same time this was happening, what I didn't know is Wizards was working on Modern. And they actually used my Overextended results and success, because it really blew up and started being a thing people played. I was running my own tournaments on Magic Online, like just in chat rooms and stuff. They were hitting like 100 to 200 people a week, right? So people were like very interested in this. And eventually, Wizards, of course, pushed Modern forward, and they did this thing where they changed Pro Tour Philadelphia, which was a format nobody wanted to play, to Modern with like 6 weeks or 8 weeks notice maybe, and they cited me as like a big reason why. And anyway, that's part of the reason why I was reached out to come on in. And they sent me my design test, which was called the Vaperops test back then. I don't really use that anymore. But they sent it to me. It's a very different process these days. But what they did is they sent it to me on a Friday, and they said, have it back to us on Monday. Here's 30 prompts, answer them. And literally all I did that weekend was eat some, sleep a little, and work on this. And I turned in a 25,000 word essay in response to their like 30 prompts, which I now know is absurd. Like, no one has ever wrote anything even close to that. And I turned it in because I wanted it so bad. In fact, media designers would later tell me that they're like, my length was not actually a strong factor. There's brevity is meaningful, which is a lesson I have since learned. But I sent it in, and then I got the call while I was in an airport. Actually, I was traveling to do commentary for a SIt Games event, and I got the call in the airport that they wanted to hire me, and that was that. Like I said, 13 years ago, and bounced around a lot, tried a lot of things at work, been in a lot of different positions, but finally got to where I am now, and I'm very happy doing what I'm doing.
Amazing. Wow, yeah, to go from a 10-year-old kid with a dream to living the dream, that's wild.
It's pretty amazing. Looking back at it, it's so easy to just talk about these time jumps now and be like, oh yeah, then I did this, and then I did this. But in the thick of it, like, I always had this very clear goal. I wanted to work at Wizards. I wanted to be a card designer, and it's like everything I did was trying to point in that direction. And every year, every month, every day, I was just trying to do a little more toward getting there. And I don't know. I feel very fortunate, honestly, that I get to do what I do, and that happened.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. That's it's inspirational to say the least. Yeah, it's really cool.
If you're 10 out there and you're listening to this, you too could be a Magic designer someday. So.
Yes, one day. I took a hobby passion of mine and turned that into a career. For myself, I went from being like a tabletop gamer, playing D&D and stuff like that, to now working in the tabletop industry, making games and running events and stuff. So it's always nice to see people who are able to take that passion for one thing and turn it into something, meaningful, worthwhile, that they can focus their lives on. Like your story from being able to take that passion from being 11 and kind of work every day at it and turn it into where you are now is it's really cool to see. And you literally you make magic cards for a living, which is like the coolest job in the world, to be honest.
I love it.
So that's where you started. You were 10. You saw it in a store. You fell in love. You focused your life goals to get to this position you are now, and you are here. You're 13 years into this position. Obviously, you love your job and you love what you do. Looking at the Magic sphere that it is now, and kind of looking at the community aspect, because one thing I like to talk about in these conversations is the community experience, and being somewhat new in the Magic community. I've only been doing content creation for a short period of time. I've been playing for a few years. In my brief time within the community, I've seen a huge boom in Magic recently in terms of the content that's out there, the expanse of the community and how far it's reaching. What's being someone who's been in it for a long time and within the industry of making Magic for a while, what's your experience in the present day and like the current time? Like how have you seen the changes to the community, and what's your thoughts on how the community is like in the present day with everything that's going on with Magic?
Yeah, I mean, wow.
Broad question, I know.
So much has evolved in the past 13 years, I think that the biggest evolution over the course of the past 13 years is one that I've got to do a lot with, and that's the evolution of Commander. Back when I started at Wizards, for reference, for another timeline check, the first Commander decks released the year I started at Wizards. And they were already done by the time I got there, but the story I don't think a lot of people know the story, and I do love the story. So at the time, there was a team that was working on a multiplayer draft product, sort of like what would maybe one day come on to be Conspiracy, although it came from a different idea. And they've been working on it for a while, and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And eventually the people above them were like, hey, we got to have something. You have a month to figure out how to get this project on track, or we're going to replace it with Commander decks. And the team suddenly they love Commanders. They're like, oh, Commander decks, that sounds fine. So suddenly there's a lot less motivation to get that project done. But anyway, so it got replaced with Commander decks. They made them and shipped them out. So to be clear, Commander decks were the backup plan. We like accidentally made Commander decks, you know? And then turns out a lot of appetite for the format, and it just grew and grew and grew. And watching that growth over the past 13 years and that whole community form has been really incredible to watch, because competitive is still great. Like I have a competitive background, competitive. We have on the Pro Tour. There's all kinds of cool stuff to do. But there's a whole new community of people that are all kind of rallied around Commander. Of so many people that you would never see at a tournament playing with their friends at Command Fests or at stores or in their homes. And it's really incredible to watch that grow, and it's just grown Magic by a huge amount. And as someone who is like a very competitive focused person, and now works on Commander, it's been very interesting kind of knowing both worlds quite well. But to me, that is like one of the biggest evolutions, and watching that community evolve and both groups try and like understand the others and what their needs are and try both ways out, right? I always tell all Commander players, you should try playing a tournament, and all competitive players, you should try playing Commander, so they can learn what it's like. Even if it doesn't stick for you, you can learn what it's like, right? And so I mean, that's by far, I think, the biggest evolution over the course of the past 13 years. I mean, there's been plenty of other things that have moved around, but watching that growth from the inside has been pretty unbelievable, especially as the person often working on the forefront of it.
I mean, I can see that. When I first was looking at getting into Magic, I was playing Standard, and I was like, I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the one-on-one competitive side of it, and then I saw some Commander content online. I think it was Game Nights, more than likely. It was a Game Nights episode or something. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. It's multiplayer. I can play with multiple friends. I like the politics side of it and the negotiations and deals. Like, oh, this is interesting. And then I got into Commander and that's kind of been like my main format has been Commander since then. Just because it is such a in terms of like the social aspect, it is such a larger arena for that social aspect of playing. Not that any other format isn't, because like we should all play every format. As Gavin, as you said, we should try all formats, because you never know what you might like, what might tickle a different part of your brain for playing. But yeah, like I've seen Commander grow even in the couple of years I've been playing the game, and like the way it's expanded, and like in terms of like content creation has just boomed for Commander. And it's nice to see the level of support that the format gets from the community, as well as from Wizards and yourself as well, with the Commander products that come out, and the staples, the consistent new staples that we keep getting for decks that just make things even nastier. It's very nice. Very thankful for those. But in coming back to the community side of it, what would you say are some of your kind of your best experiences within the community? Like obviously you design cards and you design mechanics for a living, but you also do events. You also have your unknown event, and you do content creation yourself. Like in terms of like outside of the day job side of Magic, what other elements and aspects of the Magic community do you enjoy as well?
For me, I love Magic. Like, Magic is incredible. I mean, it's no surprise, perhaps, but I love Magic, and it's an incredible game, and it's my favorite game in the world, period. But the best part by far is the gathering. It's the people. It is 100% the people, and the people I met through Magic are incredible. They're among many of my best friends, and they're all around the world. And I mean, I'll give you kind of two examples on two very different ends of the spectrum of why this is really important to me. One is I have all these friends around the world, and I don't really get to see them around town. Like I can't just go walk down the street and see them. but we all gather at a few big events a year, right? So when a MagicCon happens, we all show up, we're all there. It's like one big awesome party. And not only am I meeting new friends and new fans, but I'm seeing people that I love and adore. And it's so incredible to be there and be like an event where all my friends are here, we're all playing Magic, we're all hanging out. And then I have made trips to go out and see them individually as well and spend time with them. But I love those established friendships. And then also just the power of bringing you in right away. I mean, if you ever want to meet people, Magic is like the best way to meet people in a new city. It's like, so I hear all the time about people having trouble meeting other folks or making friends when they move. That has never even been a consideration for me. Well, I've mostly lived in Seattle. I lived in Arizona for a little while. But when I did go to Arizona, I immediately had friends when I go into a Magic shop. Because you fall together so quickly, even when I was a kid. And none of this is better exemplified, I think, than when I travel. So whenever I travel in the world, I will always like look for a local Facebook group or something, or ask on Twitter or whatever. Hey, I'm going to this place. What Magic players want to hang out? Where should I go? And I'll find some store, and everybody will go there and have an amazing night. Everyone shows up. We hang out. We play games. We go to dinner afterward. One time I was going to the Philippines, and I did this, and I woke up the next day and had like 40-something messages, and someone had like, you can stay at my place. I planned a whole trip for you. Let's go out and do this thing. And my entire itinerary for my trip there was basically planned by the Magic League.
Wow.
They're incredible people. And so like I have had just the most amazing experiences with the people in the Magic community. And it's just amazing. Every time I go anywhere, I can find Magic players that want to hang out and have fun and play games and chat. And it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. MagicCon.
Right, look at this, right? Like we were introduced through a common love of Magic, Gen Con, and now we're here talking about this, right? And you don't have that kind of connection other than, oh, hey, Magic. It's like, it's very hard to have that kind of just go out in the world, meet somebody because you have the shared connection as quickly and easily. But here it is.
It is definitely one of the easiest ways to connect with new people is through Magic. I've found, especially like, so there's such a broad like spectrum of people that play Magic as well. Like it's not like, you know, like back in the day, like you used to talk about like people who play D&D, and it's like, oh, those people that just like live in their basement and they play games with their friends and that, and it's like, no, that's not the way. That's just not how it is. And Magic's the same, you know, like any sort of like alternative like game always has that kind of slight stereotypical stigma to it. But when you look at, you know, who plays these games, and it's everyone, and you know, the fact that with Magic the Gathering you can go to a shop, sit down, play a game with people you've never met before from so many different walks of life, and then build those bonds and those friendships through that, you know, in such a way that it's through that shared love and passion of the game. It's just it's great to see and experience, because it's so easy to do. Like, you know, you sit down, you play a card game, and you've made friends for life through it. You know, it is the gathering aspect of Magic the Gathering is my favorite part, for sure. And MagicCon, like MagicCon Amsterdam was my first MagicCon. It will not be my last. That's definitely for sure. But that was
an awesome show.
Yeah,
I think Amsterdam was maybe our best one yet too. It was incredible.
It was good. It was my first time in Amsterdam as well. But yeah, it's just what a great experience. Like MagicCons are for anyone else like watching. If you get a chance to go to a Command Fest, a MagicCon or anything like that, then do it. It's worth it no matter what. And to see so many people playing Magic in one space is wild as well. Like I've been to some big LGSs, but like you go to a MagicCon, it's just next level. But like conventions, I touched upon, like, I know you do conventions and you do your unknown event, and you did one at Gen Con recently as well, which I was working Gen Con in my day job, and I hadn't even realized there was Magic events on at Gen Con until I got there, and I had people saying, oh, hey, we're doing this is happening. I was like, oh no, oh my. I didn't have time to book anything. But yeah.
Next year,
yes, next year, definitely. But only one thing I want to touch upon very, very briefly is you announced Mystery Booster 2 at Gen Con, which was a great surprise to a lot of people. and I was hyped when I heard about it, and you very graciously gifted me a pack of Mystery Booster 2, which is just there, just off camera. I don't want to ask you too many questions because I don't know how much you'd be able to say. But how long? Like, my one question is, how long have you been working on that? Like, you kept that under wraps for a long time.
Yeah. Well, so the thing about Magic sets, I'll kind of start here, is they take a really long time to make. I think many people out there listening might not know this, but I get messages all the time, like, oh, well, this thing is happening as standard right now. Go put this card in the newest set, something to solve it. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Basically, an easy rule of thumb is about a year out from a set coming out, it's totally locked down. It's done. It's being finalized and get printed. I think it takes a long time to print everything up, ship it around the world, etc. So about a year out from launch, it's not quite exactly that, but more or less, the set is finished.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start there. And then for sets, we'll begin designing them 3-4 years in advance quite often. Many years in advance. And we start planning them out even beyond that. Like, I was literally in a meeting this week talking about the plan for the early 2030s. Okay. So like we figure out the kind of places we're going and the worlds we're going to go to and the themes, the top line themes at least, far in advance. Because we want to make sure that as we're looking at our map, we're kind of hitting all the things we want to be able to hit and not back ourselves into a corner. And with Universes Beyond, that schedule is even longer because it takes even longer to make sure we do that property justice, right? We want to work with the partner on it. We want to do a bunch of rounds of reviews. All the art has to get approved by both us and them. So it's a really collaborative process. It's really cool to work with our partners, and it does add time onto it. So it takes years and years and years and years to make a Magic set. So yeah, Mystery Booster 2, I think we started talking about in early 22. Okay. Mystery Booster 2 is a bit of an unusual one in that it's mostly reprints, so you can do that one a little bit quicker. But still, I mean, it takes a long time. We need to make sure that there would be conventions to return to, and to be able to do it. And it was an ask from the events team, right? So the events team was like, hey, we want something special for our con events. Can you guys make this for us? And so they sponsored it and funded it and everything, which is why I'm very grateful, because it wasn't on the calendar otherwise. It would literally not exist if not for the events group. I think that's kind of how it started. But like Final Fantasy, which comes out next year, and I was the lead designer of, and I'm very proud of. We started working on that, I believe, in 21, right? So that's 4 years from start to finish. Lord of the Rings came out last year, and we started on that in late 2018. So I mean, these sets take so long to make and get right, and we try and make do the best about knowing what the world's going to look like at that point when it comes to like the vibe of Magic and what people are asking for. But things can always shift, and that's why sometimes, like, we'll have taken one hard thing for me sometimes is people ask me to make changes to Magic, or hey, can you add this to this color pie or make this color better or whatever. And it's like, I know I've already done it, and that is going to happen. You just got to wait 18 months so you can see the results, if you said something loud enough, we've heard it. We're not like sticking our heads in the sand. We can hear what you're saying. It takes time.
I imagine as well with that, like I can only imagine like being in your position. You design a set, you spent all that time working on it, and you've done something that you're extremely excited about, extremely like hyped for, and you're like, it's done, it's locked in. I got to wait 12 months before I can talk about it. Yep, that's absolutely correct. And even longer quite often, because if you work on the early part, you're excited the whole time you're working on it. If you're on the early stage, you're waiting even longer to see it, right? So Mark Rosewater, for example, works on the more vision beginning side of things, and it'll take like 2.5 years. People might not even know that it exists for a long time. It won't even been announced. So it is a long journey. And the wild part is, by the time the set comes out, you're like, yes, this set is sick. I'm so proud of it. It's awesome. But wait for the next thing I have for you. It's going to be even cooler, right? So, although I'll say I am very excited for Final Fantasy, so I cannot wait for you to all see it. That set is something I am extremely proud of, and I think you're all going to love. I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. Like, I'm not going to ask any questions because I know I'm going to get no answers. But yeah, I'm excited for when we start seeing slight glimpses of that set coming out. And what's being offered in that. It's going to be a fun one. But speaking of like being excited over sets and stuff, like I'm I'm going to ask the heated questions that I ask everyone on this, and I joke and say, I will take your answers as final, concrete. They're going to go on the internet. Everyone will use this as a reference forever onwards. But if you were to pick a top three cards to be your favorite 3 cards in Magic, what would they be?
Okay, well, the first question I have to ask, this is a critical question, is, are these cards after I started working at Wizards? Can they be anything? Or before I started working at Wizards? Because obviously, once I have my hands on the pie, I begin to pick the favorites of stuff that I've worked on, right? And then suddenly, favorite card takes a very different meaning. Before Wizards, it's all about play value and etc. After working at Wizards, it's often like, what are my favorite cards that I've made? So, which of those 2 categories?
I'm more interested in you and your cards. So, what are your 3 favorite cards just of all time, whether you've worked on it or not?
Yeah. Well, my favorite card of all time is Future Sight. So I love this card. I actually got to sneak it in a Mystery Booster 2 on the Future Sight frame, which is delightful to me. I just love it. It's a really fun card to play with. I can't help but take it in cube when I see it around. You can play the top card of your library revealed, then you can play it as though it was in your hand. And I actually qualified for the Pro Tour playing Future Sight. And I was at a Grand Prix, and I was maybe the only person, or at least can't be more than 5 people in the whole 1,000-person tournament playing Future Sight in their deck. I played fairies with Future Sight in the sideboard, so I love it. It's fun. It's a card I love in Commander, and it qualified me for the Pro Tour. So it is a very, very special card to me, and I really like that one.
Okay.
Another card that's extremely, extremely, extremely special for me, and it's in my top 3 cards for sure, is a card that I made. So we'll go from a card I didn't make to a card I made. And that's Serene Remembrance. Now, you might wonder, why the heck this card? This is a forgettable card. No one knows what this does. I'll tell you a story. So as you all learned earlier, when I was 11, I wanted to go make Magic cards. And I got that advice. And I figured the best way to do this, the best way to make Magic cards was to make Magic cards. So that's what I started doing. I started making Magic cards. And what I would do is I would invite my friends over for sleepovers at my house. And then I would conscript them into working with Magic sets on me. And we would design a bunch of Magic cards, then hand them off to my mom. And while we went to bed, she would print them out and cut them up for us. And then in the morning, she would have a draft ready to go, and we would draft the cards that we made the night before.
Wow!
And so, it had to go over sleepovers, and we'd do this a bunch of times and make all these cards, whatever. And then eventually, I started playing professionally, and when I hit 15, I started trying to qualify for the Pro Tour, etc. So I gotta put that behind me. But flash forward to when I got hired at Wizards, I came back home for Thanksgiving break. And my mom's like, hey, I found these in the attic. And she handed me this box. Well, not actually the attic, that's my metaphor, but I just found these in a closet or whatever. And I found this box of all the cards you made when you were a kid. And she handed it over to me, and I start looking through them, and they're just ridiculous, right? There's my favorite was there's a land that taps for 2 mana or to draw 2 cards. It's just ridiculous stuff. Total nonsense. But I'm flipping through them, and I get to one, and I'm like, this could actually work. And I go back to work after the break, and I pitch it to Dave Humphreys, who's working on the set, and he likes it, and he puts it in the set, and that is Serene Remembrance. So, I was like, oh, this could help fight the Demir's Mill strategy. But the key part to me is it's a card I made when I was 11 years old that got printed finally in a set. And
wow,
that's very, very special to me on that card. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's quite a special one. Man, it's so hard to pick for the third one, because I have so many different cards, so many different stories that I want to tell. I'll give an honorable mention. I'm not going to pick it. I'm going to give you an honorable mention here.
Okay.
Honorable mention to Teferi's Protection, which is a card that I have signed a lot of. It has a fun story. I made it when I had 5 minutes before a meeting. I just needed to fill a card in my file, thinking I would change it later. And then I brought it to the meeting. Everyone loved it. So we just kept it in the set, and it stuck the whole way through. But no, another card that has to make the list is another very special personal card to me, and a card probably nobody knows. And it's Experiment 5. This is a playtest card from the first Mystery Booster. I will tell you a story. Once again, I love a good story. When I was a kid, when I was 5, it was my first Halloween ever. And my mom asked me what I wanted to be for Halloween. And I told her I wanted to be a bear snake. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, a bear snake. She's like, don't you want to be a TV character or something from a book? And I'm like, no, a bear snake. So she goes back and like carefully and laboriously crafts this costume for me. In fact, she first shows me a version of the costume. I'm like, Mom, that's a snake bear. You got to make it a bear snake. And so she had to like redo where some of the pieces were. But so she gave it to me. I've got a very cute photo of me. If you Google Gavin bear snake, you can probably find it. I put it on the internet a bunch of times. And I went to my first Halloween party. Obviously, no one knew what I was, but I loved it, right? Many years later, after I started at Wizards, my mom sent me the photo as like, oh, remember this? And then I shared it on the internet with the caption along the lines of like, well, when I was 5 years old, I was making up fantasy creatures, and now I'm still doing that, you know? And it just kind of took off in my personal circle, and people like really grew to love the bear snake. And now in my house, I've got bear snake plushies. I've got bear snake t-shirts that people have designed given to me. There's this piece of art right back here that there's a bear snake probably featured right there in the art. That is my friend Mel, who used to work at Wizards, drew this for me. And sort of became like my symbol, my insignia, as it were. So when I was working on Mystery Booster 1, I wanted to put a bunch of fun Easter eggs in there. I had to make all the playtest cards, and they got to be a little bit weird. And so I thought I would make a bear snake. And so I made Experiment 5, which is a bear snake. And even more special is we got the employees to hand draw cards. And so I got to draw the art for this card. So I got to illustrate the bear snake. I got to create the bear snake from top to bottom. I designed the card. I named it. I did the art for it. It's as full of a Gavin card as you can possibly get. And it's a very special card to me. And actually, as a gift, I gave it to my mom for Christmas. She didn't know it was coming. I gave it to her for Christmas one year, along with a photo. She has it up. It's a photo of me in the bear snake costume and a little note I wrote and the card. And and my original sketch for the bear snake art. I gave her that as well on the list. So there you go, original magic art. And that hangs up in her office now. So,
nice. That's really cool.
That's a very important card to me, even though it's against a card no one really plays with. It's very meaningful.
That's cool. That's a good story. I like that one. That's cool. Okay, that's a fun top three. I do have a question actually. With Future Sight being up there, being a blue card, would you say blue is one of your favorite colors to play?
Yeah, blue is probably my favorite color to play. I mean, I'll play anything. I have to for my job. As a competitive player, I would play anything. I play the deck that wins. I play aggro, control, combo, mid-range, whatever. But left to my own devices, if I'm just like picking a deck that I enjoy for fun, I always love blue decks, blue control-y decks, of course, and also like blue tempo-y decks, like fairies, that kind of stuff. Very much up my alley.
Okay.
And so yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Is control a style that you like? Is that like your go-to?
Yeah, it's one of my go-tos. That and like I said, the tempo-y kind of decks are two of my favorites. So when I'm cube drafting, I always love taking Counterspell, and I love taking the Delkin Shackles and Cryptic Command and all of these cards. There's something about falling behind early and then trying to win that really appeals to me for some reason. And I just love those games. There's so many fun, interesting little decisions to make. So yeah, I'm a big fan of control.
Okay, nice. I like that. My last one of the poignant questions is commander focused. I'm a commander player. I play commander a lot. I have a favorite that I play that everyone hates when I play it because I'm a mono black Shoulder the Apocalypse player.
Okay.
Yeah. No one likes me when I play that.
Walk them out. It's a good thing.
But as someone who designs commander and plays it, what are some of your kind of favorite commanders that you've either played in personal decks, played when people have given you decks to play, or at events and stuff? Like, what would you say were a couple commanders that you have enjoyed either playing or working on or being involved with?
Yeah, well, there's one deck that's very special to me, and I love, and it's a deck I'm requested to play the most. And not to tell another story, but to do exactly that. I guess that's why we're here. So there's a deck that I really liked that I had. I work on a lot of commander decks. There's one that I like in particular. And one day the Secret Lair team messaged me and they're like, hey, we want to do this new wild thing. We want to try making an entire commander deck in a Secret Lair and sell it that way. We want you to kind of be the like headlining face of it. So just take a few weeks, think about it, send us one of your favorite decks, and we'll see if we can work that shop into that something, and just be like a little bit weird and off kilter. And they're like, yeah, take a few weeks, just let us know. And so in about 30 minutes, I replied back, and I'm like, it's this deck I'm using. It's this one. It's my favorite, and it's perfect fit for you. And it's my blue-red coin flip deck, right? So Zender Split 01, my coin flip deck. I'm well known for it. A lot of you probably have a copy of the deck out there somewhere, my Secret Lair deck. Head that win, tails you lose. And it is still one of my favorites to play. It is a deck that everyone always asks to play because, of course, I'm known for it. And I also designed both Zender Split and Oaklawn. So in Battle Bond, which was my first set lead, so like it's got very much a personal nostalgia too. And what I love about it the most is, one, everyone like laughs because it's a coin flipping deck, and it's also very powerful and it will destroy you. And the second is that, look, I've played a lot of Magic and I kind of know how the flow of the game goes.
Yeah.
But with the coin flip deck, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I could have an amazing turn. I could set up for like a perfect coin flip turn and just lose all my coin flips. Or I could have one coin flip card in play, like just Zender Split, and win 6 coin flips in a row and draw 6 cards, something to be back in the game, right? So you really never know what's going to happen. Not even, like, no one knows, not even me. And I personally really enjoy that in a game of Commander. And so it's not for every game, not for competitive Magic, but for that kind of game of Commander, when I'm feeling in the mood, it is a great fit. And I've always loved that deck. So that's one I always keep on me, just because I know people ask for it. And it's, got promoted to be sent out to everyone in boxes. So gotta say that's an important one for me.
Yeah, I've definitely played against it, and yeah, taking like, I think it was, how much damage did I take? 48,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I've gotten a million. So you got the high score game is real. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a fun deck. For sure.
It creates good stories, which is what I often look for. I talk about this a lot with our design team, but Commander is a great avenue for telling stories.
Yes. With that deck, like, just not to deep dive into it, but like how? Like, it's like, how did you come up with that? Like, from
the deck idea or the card?
The deck idea, just to do that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of tell the story. So when I was working on Battle Bond, I was trying to make a blue-red partner pair that was a little bit different. Like, I didn't want to do another blue-red spell partner pair. Like, we've seen that. We've been there, done that. And I actually ran an external hole filling for a handful of cards that needed stuff. So just other people in the building could basically send me their ideas. That's what that is. And someone sent this idea of a coin flip commander. And I was like, this is a really interesting idea. And I kind of took that seed and created Zender Split Oaklawn with it. So ever since I made them, I wanted to build a deck with them. Like, I was very excited about it from the get-go, And it was actually Ken Nagel inside Wizards. He no longer works there, but he did at the time, who was an amazing deck designer and built with a lot of wacky Commander decks. Yeah. He would often build Commander decks for just cards he saw in sets that he liked. And he built up the first Zender Split Oaklawn deck. And it was a blast, and he actually lent it to me to go play at a Star City event where I was spell slinging, and it was so much fun that I had to go back home and build it myself. So shout out to Ken, actually, for being the brainchild around the original version of the deck that I then adapted and turned into my own. And that's kind of where it came from. I mean, I had the idea for the card, and then Ken made the deck, and then I adapted my deck to Ken's deck, and it was off the races from there.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. I like that adapting from another deck. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, I need to play that deck on a stream at some point.
It's so fun.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of moving forward and kind of moving into the future of Magic and where the Magic sphere is going. Obviously, you've mentioned Final Fantasy's coming out next year. You're really excited for that. And there's a lot of sets kind of between now and then as well coming out. We've got Dustmourn around the corner, which I'm very excited for. I'm a big horror fan, so that's definitely tickling my interests. But in terms of like just yourself and Magic and like where you are within the community and with everything, kind of what do you see, as the next evolution for you, the next kind of steps with you and what you're doing within the role as principal game designer in Magic and as a Magic player? Is there anything you see yourself doing within the sphere moving forward? Like, what you're looking forward to or interested in doing?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I always tell my manager, which is, I mean, I have a lot of things I want to keep doing, and I want to start doing. I'll tell you about that in a second. But the most important thing to me is I never stop making Magic sets. I love it. I love working on Magic cards. I love making Magic cards and sets and products. And so that is really critical and paramount to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have, Mystery Booster 2 is about to come out, which I had not really talked about for a long time. People kept asking me, what did you work on this year? And I was like, nothing that I can say really. And then, so finally, I got to talk about it. Final Fantasy comes out next year, which I'm extremely excited about. I got some, for many years in the future, I've got some other stuff in the works, which is really quite exciting. The bigger thing for me, that one of my big focuses right now is, as Commander has grown, so I'm kind of one of the leaders of the Commander team. It's me and Melissa DeTora. Melissa focuses on the more play design, so like the final like testing of the cards.
Yeah.
And I focus more on like the Commander vision, the plan, what we're doing and why, like what our benchmarks are for cards, what our heuristics are for cards we make. And so going to more of a leadership role of the Commander team, which I've already been doing a lot of, but doing even more there as Commander keeps growing and growing is really important to me. So I've got some cool stuff in mind for that. And then also just, continuing content creation and loving it, right? I have my YouTube channel that I love. I love going to events with the community. So there's always new people to meet and ways to grow there. And I love going to that world and doing that.
Awesome. Is there any events coming up that you're looking forward to? I know we have MagicCon Vegas.
Oh, but that's the big one for me, man. MagicCon Las Vegas is going to be awesome. So fun. I probably don't need to tell you all about that one. You probably know about MagicCon Las Vegas, but if you aren't going, go check it out. A big one for me, though, that is maybe lesser known and I really love is CubeCon. CubeCon happens in October. It's actually the week before Vegas, which I know can make it tricky for those going. But it is 3 days of cubing, and it's like a cube tournament. It is so fun. It was an amazing time last year and the year before. I'm going back this year. Actually, my cube is featured in it this year. So it is a blast. And if you like cube magic at all, or just hanging out and drafting, I highly suggest coming to check it out. It's in Madison, Wisconsin, and it's a great time.
Awesome, that's cool. I've heard of CubeCon. I haven't looked into it. But yeah, I've heard about a few people going.
If you're over here, come give it a check. If you're gonna come over from Vegas, just drop by CubeCon on the way there. Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. Just extend the trip a week or two before. Sounds like a good plan. That's kind of all I have to talk with you about, actually. We've explored your beginnings in Magic, and we've explored how you went from being a 10-year-old child, discovering Magic, to that focus into I want to do this forever, and now you are doing this forever. What a journey.
And you know what? If I know anything from the journey so far, there's even more wild things on the horizon. We'll see where it goes next. But thank you all for playing and enjoying the game that I get to make. Because it wouldn't be anything, as I said earlier, the players are important to me, and it would not be anything without the players.
Yes. All I can say is thank you. Thank you for making these cards and working on these products that we as a community enjoy so much. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join me as well, and to have this conversation and kind of let me pry into your life a little bit and kind of what makes you tick in the magic world. The only thing I can say just to close out is for those watching, if you don't know who Gavin is, then where have you been?
Hopefully the last half hour is very insightful.
Yes, I would hope. I would hope so. But just to do the last plug, Gavin, if you could let us know where people can find you, where are you? Where's the best place to see you?
You can find me by Googling my name. Twitter, Instagram, and then of course, Good Morning Magic is my YouTube channel. So come follow. I post every week talking about behind the scenes of design. So come on in and check it out.
Amazing. And you'll be at all the major Magic conventions as well, I imagine.
As far as I know.
Wonderful.
Known events are always a big hit there, so come check that out.
Yes, they are. It's a very fun time, for sure. So yes, for those watching, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Go follow Gavin on all socials. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Thank you all very much for joining us. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Later, everybody.